The sport quad boom of the 2000s was a blessing and a curse. While it drove the development of sport ATVs and gave us a variety of different race machines to choose from, it unfortunately changed something that was historically great about the sport. Until the 450 era, nearly every sport ATV ever produced was at some point utilized as a serious race machine. With the arrival of the 450 class, racers' mindsets changed, believing that if it wasn't powered by a 450cc engine, it couldn't be competitive. We're pretty sure that most cross-country racers racing 250cc two-stroke dirt bikes in the late 80s felt pretty similarly about their 252 strokes, until Scott Summers showed up on his 300-pound Honda XR 600 and smoked them all. With all of the ATV manufacturers turning their backs on the sport, except Yamaha, most racers believe that the only machine worth racing that's currently available on the market today is the YFZ 450R. However, we believe that that perception is flawed. The Raptor 700R was developed partially based on what Yamaha learned from the original race-focused YFZ 450. Sure, it's a little narrow out of the box and has a little higher center of gravity, but many overestimate its weight, weighing only 17 pounds more than the YFZ 450R. The Raptor's engine is certainly competitively fast, with a high torque, low and mid-range focused power delivery that's more forgiving than a high RPM focused 450. Its suspension is plush, it features agile accurate handling, and its brakes deliver 450cc class power and feel. As a benefit, its higher center of gravity yields a slightly higher seat height that makes it more comfortable to sit on and getting off the seat easier the longer the ride. To clarify, we're not claiming that the Raptor is a threat to win a Pro ATV class championship. Its displacement alone makes it a non-starter in most Pro ATV classes. What we are saying is that in spite of its shortcomings, the 700R has some distinct advantages that most racers simply look past. We admit, the Raptor is the furthest away from being a competitive motocrosser, although that doesn't mean you can't race it in that environment if properly set up. Corey Ellis raced one in the Quad Cross series back in the day with good results. But when it comes to endurance racing like cross country or desert, we believe for some time now that the Raptor 700R has its place, and for some, it might be the ideal weapon for competition. In our recent test of the 2024 Raptor, our test riders, both cross-country racers, felt that the 700 has potential for racing. To find out for sure, we added the minimum modifications to our Raptor 700R test unit to make it race legal and to be able to survive a cross-country race. We spent a weekend on testing and setup to dial in the machine. We then headed to the Hoosier GNCC the following weekend to race our nearly stock machine. Our goal was to evaluate how competitive the stock Raptor could be, and to gauge its potential for winning races if properly set up. Race setup. Our list of modifications is short. To be race legal, we installed a plug-and-play Pro Armor kill switch from B&R Motorsports. Its biggest advantage is its ease of installation, not requiring you to cut and splice wires. Racing without a steering stabilizer is downright dangerous, so we installed one of Precision Racing's top-of-the-line Elite steering stabilizers. Precision Racing stabilizers allow you to fine-tune the center and sides of your ATV steering separately, minimizing bump feedback on straightaways while allowing you to affect bump feedback and traction in corners. It's a no-brainer for any high-performance sport ATV build, winning more championships than probably any other single ATV product in history. Next, a full set of Yamaha GYTR aluminum skid plates were bolted to the Raptor, covering the A-arms, chassis, and swing arm, protecting the underside front to back. Ideal for trail riding due to their high level of protection. We knew that a traditional swing arm skid plate would cost us some ground clearance, which is why many cross-country racers don't use them. but we knew we were less likely to DNF due to a damaged chain or rear brake. The GYTR swing arm skid plate is especially beefy, a good thing as it will take the most punishment. The skid plates bolt to the existing mounting points on the swing arm and frame, with additional clamps holding the frame and A-arm skid plates in place. Rubber bushings on the bottom of the frame and A-arm skid plates eliminate any annoying rattles. Mounting hardware points on the bottom are recessed, protecting the bolt heads from easily being sheared off, a nice touch that many aftermarket skid plates lack. Fitment was OEM quality, as we would expect from a genuine Yamaha accessory. To protect the appearance of our machine, we installed a grip it kit from Dirt Fiend Racing on our frame and lower rear fenders. Similar to skateboard deck tape, these stickers feature a tough, rough textured finish to help grip the sides of the quad with your knees, especially in the wet, while protecting the frame and lower rear fenders from scratches. We use them on our personal machines and would hate to ride a machine without them to protect our investment. They're available in different colors to help match the look of your ATV. We at least wanted to provide our stock Raptor with the benefit of championship-winning traction and durability, so GBC Groundbuster 3 tires were chosen for the job, 21/710 front and 20/11/9 rear. Testing was done with Groundbuster 3 Pros out back, swapping to the more rounded profile Groundbuster 3s on race day to help the tractable 4-stroke engine and narrower width more easily break loose for slides if desired. The stock headlights were removed to prevent them being broken from flying debris, and no other performance parts were added after that, including retaining the stock exhaust and handlebars. This race machine was almost as stock as they come. Pre-race testing and setup. With former local cross-country racer Evan Hartzell set to pilot our Raptor on race day, we met up with him at his private practice track in northern Kentucky to dial in the machine. Evan's first impression of the Raptor was that its stock engine actually felt faster than his piped and Vortex ECU-equipped YFZ 450R, so even corked up, engine performance shouldn't be a problem. Concerned about the Raptor's higher center of gravity, we ran 40% sag on the rear suspension, around 10% more than we typically run without zero preload shocks, where ride height has little effect on how firm or soft the ride is. Front ride height was set a half-inch higher than the rear. Then we started digging into damping adjustments. With the rear end kicking a bit in rollers, we slowed the rear shock's rebound damping 3 clicks, which helped settle things down. On the front shocks, we backed out on high and low speed compression most of the way, adding in enough low speed compression to help resist body roll and turns without feeling harsh over bumps. We then played around with high-speed compression until we found the best compromise between compliance over roots and rocks, while still offering enough bottoming resistance on G-outs and small jump landings. The front shock's rebound damping was left stock. For tire pressure, we settled on 6.5 pounds rear and 7.5 pounds front. Without us having the benefit of a run-flat system, a slightly higher air pressure would help provide some flat protection. The Groundbuster 3s still provided good acceleration, braking, and directional control, so we were primarily sacrificing a little bit of ride quality over smaller bumps. For the stabilizer settings, Evan felt that the Raptor's front end is a little twitchier than his YFZ, so he ran a little more damping on the center and sides than Precision Racing's recommended base settings. At 45.5 inches wide in stock condition, compared to the 47.5-inch width that most cross-country racers set their machines up with, Evan noted that the stock Raptor gives up a little bit of stability in turns, which might play a role in how he'd ride during the race. But after a few hours of dialing in the machine, we felt we'd made a notable improvement in its suspension and handling compared to stock. So with that in mind, it was time to head home and get ready for race day. the race. We arrived at the Hoosier GNCC in Crawfordsville, Indiana on Friday to go through sign-up and tech inspection. It rained before we arrived, while we were there the night before the race, and again race morning. So it was going to be a mutter. We were there looking for a high level of competition, but didn't want to interfere with anyone's championship points. So we signed up for the Sportsman B class, a non-points paying class in the morning, frequented by local fast guys. We made a couple last minute changes prior to heading to the race. As we mentioned, we swapped out the rear tires to standard GBC Groundbuster 3s for easier sliding in high traction conditions, which weren't going to be a problem in this race. They were mounted on a set of DWT dual beadlock rear wheels, just in case we cut a tire. Up front, we maintained the use of the stock non-beadlock wheels to maximize stability, as the 4+1 offset beadlock wheels we had would have narrowed up the front end even more. The entire track was wet and waterlogged, with the starting field similar to riding through cake batter, without the benefit of a 24-volt fast starting setup. Evan had to start the Raptor in neutral with the clutch pulled in, shift into second gear, and take off, while others in his class were starting in gear, saving time. Off the line, Evan got a decent start. The big 4-stroke was so adept at finding traction, especially with the Groundbuster 3s out back, that he actually wheelied a bit in the slop as he shifted up to third gear. After a strong third-place hole shot, he was temporarily dropped to fourth, with Evan regaining third place before he entered the woods. The Raptor's suspension was working quite well on lap 1. Evan closed and passed for second, then reeled in the leader and passed him, putting the big 700 out front. Soon after, the rear skid plate got the machine hung up in some deep ruts, the reason that most GNCC racers don't run them. 2 minutes later, Evan was back on track running in second place, where he spent much of the race, running down the leader again. Evan reported that he was blowing past 450s in the fields, although the machine's narrower width and higher center of gravity was forcing him to square off corners, taking advantage of its race-worthy braking performance and the engine's monster torque output to help him quickly get the machine up to speed between turns. Slipping the clutch isn't necessary on the 700, making technical sections easier to ride with less fatigue. Evan also praised the Raptor's comfortable seating position for making the ATV less fatiguing to ride in the saddle and easier to get off of. After becoming stuck for several minutes on 2 more occasions, then getting hung up at a big bottleneck, Evan was falling back in the pack due to a lack of proper machine setup. With 70 pounds of mud built up on the machine, our suspension settings became far too soft by lap 2. With the shocks occasionally bottoming and kicking, Evan had to back off as the machine's weight increased. More preload and compression damping would have made a big difference. In the end, we finished 5th out of 9th in our class. While our finish wasn't that impressive, we had no expectations of winning the race on a stock bike. However, we never expected to lead for a while either, so in the end, there wasn't much to complain about. Conclusion. After a strong start, managing to run down the leader twice and leading the race for a while, the stock Raptor 700R proved that it's capable of leading a national B class in Grand National Cross Country Racing with very little modification. Had we simply had a little stiffer suspension settings and ran a racing style sprocket and rotor guard like most GNCC racers, our nearly stock Raptor would have certainly been a threat for the podium, if not the win. Some might say that the Raptor can't be competitive in cross-country racing, but based on our experience, we're 100% convinced otherwise. We can make this machine much more capable as a racer, while still retaining all of the advantages that made it competitive for us. If you don't think the Raptor can be a competitive woods racer, you'd better think again. It's not just a great trail and dune machine. The Raptor 700R could be a great ATV for racing as well. For more information on the 2024 Yamaha Raptor 700R, make sure to check out our full test. Learn more about Yamaha's full line of ATVs, side-by-sides, and dirt bikes at yamahamotorsports.com. Thanks for watching.